Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible moments in modern aerial combat history, when tiny, outdated Argentine jets known as the A4 Skyhawks defied all odds and took on one of the most powerful naval forces in the world, the British Royal Navy. This is not just a story of war. It's a story of courage, skill, and desperation. A David vs. Goliath moment in the skies over the South Atlantic. Let's rewind to 1982. The Falklands War, a short but brutal conflict between Argentina and the United Kingdom, over a group of remote islands in the South Atlantic known as the Falklands, or as Argentina calls them, the Malvinas. When Argentina invaded the islands in April 1982, the world watched in shock. The British government under Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher responded swiftly, sending a powerful naval task force 80 miles from home. Among this armada were aircraft carriers HMS Hermes and HMS Invincible, carrying advanced British Harrier jets. The Royal Navy was confident. They had radar-guided missiles, modern warships, and total naval dominance. But what they didn't expect was the bravery of Argentine pilots flying outdated A4 Skyhawks, small, subsonic jets from the 1950s, carrying simple iron bombs and no modern radar systems. The Skyhawk pilots were young, some barely in their 20s. They flew low, often just meters above the ocean surface, to avoid British radar. Imagine flying a jet so close to the sea that a single mistake would send you crashing into the waves. That was their only hope of survival. On May 21, 1982, the British began their amphibious landings at San Carlos Bay, code-named Operation Sutton. The narrow bay quickly earned a deadly nickname among the Argentines, Bomb Alley. Argentine pilots knew the British would be vulnerable as they unloaded troops and supplies. In came the Skyhawks, flying in tight formation, radar silent, hugging the waves. The British radar picked them up too late. Harrier patrols scrambled, but the A4s were already diving into their attack runs. In a scene straight out of a war movie, ships opened fire with anti-aircraft guns, missiles streaked through the air, and tracer rounds lit up the sky. But the Skyhawks pressed on. They released their bombs at ultra-low altitude, pulling up sharply to escape. The British destroyer HMS Ardent took multiple hits and went up in flames. Hours later, HMS Antelope followed. In total, the Skyhawks managed to destroy or heavily damage several ships, including HMS Coventry, HMS Broadsword, and HMS Sir Galahad. What made this so shocking was how primitive the Argentine weapons were. Many bombs didn't even explode because they were dropped too low for their fuses to arm. Yet the few that did detonate caused devastating damage. Pilots like LT Mariano Velasco and LT Carlos Rink became legends. They faced radar-guided missiles, anti-aircraft fire, and even sea Harriers, yet they still scored hits against the Royal Navy. The Skyhawks' success stunned British commanders. Even Thatcher's war cabinet was shaken. For a brief period, the Royal Navy's dominance seemed in doubt. Despite their courage, Argentina couldn't sustain the fight. Their aircraft suffered heavy losses, and the British fleet's air defenses eventually adapted. By June 1982, British forces retook the islands, but the legacy of the A4 Skyhawks lived on. Military analysts still study those attacks as a textbook example of bravery and tactical ingenuity. How did small, outdated jets manage to strike fear into one of the most powerful navies in the world? The answer: courage, daring, and the will to fight against impossible odds. Today, the Falklands conflict remains a sensitive topic in both Argentina and the UK. For Argentina, it's a story of pride and pain of young pilots who gave everything. For Britain, it's a story of resolve and victory at great cost. But for the rest of the world, it's a reminder that in war, technology alone doesn't guarantee success. Sometimes it's the heart of the pilot that decides the outcome. So the next time you see a small, aging jet like the A4 Skyhawk, remember this: these little birds once humbled giants. And their legacy still soars over the cold South Atlantic skies. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And tell us in the comments which military event you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.